I've been in this business for half a century. George here would understand that very well. And this is a story, except in a book that I recently wrote on the front lines of the Cold War. I've never told this story anyplace. Moscow, 1960. I just arrived to become the New York Times chief correspondent. At that time, suddenly, there was an editorial in Pravda, the official newspaper, denouncing so-called revisionist monsters within the international communist community, but no identification of who these revisionists were. Having been in China for previous 3 years, I guess there was the Chinese, and I wrote a series of stories as this type of story kept on appearing in the official press, that it was the Chinese they were talking about, Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai. But every story I tried to write was blocked by censorship. There was an absolute censorship at the time. Then in November, there was a meeting of the 81 communist parties of the world, and I got a leak from the conference. There had been a split in the conference between those supporting Mao and those supporting Nikita Khrushchev, the Soviet leader. That night, November 23rd, I went to the Telegraph, and I wrote a story about the split, identifying those so-called monsters as the Chinese. I had no expectation that it would go through censorship. But I wrote the story anyhow. And I walked up to the censorship booth and pushed 2 copies as required through the green curtain of the censor, left and waited. I waited for hours. And then suddenly they pushed back one of the 2 copies. They saved 1 copy to return and 1 copy, if necessary, for their records. And to my amazement, the copy that I got back from the censorship did not have any markings on it. They had sent clear the story about the split at the conference and the denunciations in the press, and it meant that Khrushchev had decided to go public with a split with the Chinese. The next morning, my story led the New York Times, but at that moment, the SIno-Soviet bloc split, and the balance of power in the world changed. That's my story.